something inside me is actually getting emotional. Like, I got to somehow keep it together. Why am I getting emotional? It's a car. My videos before, you probably know one of my all-time dream cars is a Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. I actually own a 360 Modena, which over the years I've improved ever so slightly to try and make it feel and sound more like a Challenge Stradale. And whilst I think I've done a pretty good job, the CS still remains pretty high up on my all-time dream car wish list. However, let's say I won the Euro Millions, there's another Ferrari I'd buy instead of a Challenge Stradale. Heck, instead of a LaFerrari, it's one of these, a 250 short wheelbase. Now, 250, an iconic model for Ferrari. The GTO, famously one of the most valuable cars to ever sell at auction. But there was the 250 TDF, the 250 LM, the 250 Testarossa, etc. But for me, I've always lusted after most the short wheelbase variant, especially in Competizione 4. But I've had to come to accept that I'd probably never own one, let alone experience one, because these days 250 short wheelbases go for around 10, 15 million pounds. And whilst I have big goals and aspirations for my life, I have to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to have that kind of money to spend on a car. However, these days there's a 250 short wheelbase that if I work exceptionally hard, one day, maybe one day, I could afford. And it's this one, right here. Just look at this thing, it's incredible. Welcome to a 250 short wheelbase revival from GTO Engineering. Now, some Ferrari collectors and purists may be tempted to switch off at this point because they'll know this isn't strictly an original 250 short wheelbase, in the sense that this car didn't leave the Ferrari factory back in the 1960s looking like this. But this is no sort of, MX-5 with a beautiful Ferrari body draped over it. This is a toolroom recreation put together by one of the world's leading Ferrari specialists. GTO Engineering have been restoring, maintaining and servicing Ferraris for years, and their work and some of their parts are heralded by even Ferrari themselves as being fantastic. So if anyone was going to celebrate this iconic car and build some new ones, it really should have been them. So what is a toolroom recreation? Essentially, GTO Engineering find a sort of donor 250 or even a later 330, completely pull it apart, analyze every single component and go, right, that one needs to be repaired, that one needs to be replaced, that one needs to be improved. Then they put it all back together in a short wheelbase configuration and then make this incredible body. So you're getting, well, I mean, in this case, 10%, sometimes even more original Ferrari parts. Everything else is brand new from GTO Engineering, but as a copy or a slight improvement of the original part. So it is a 250 short wheelbase, just made today. If Enzo Ferrari was alive and Ferrari was still making them, this is kind of what you would get. It's not like a Singer where they've put like F12 suspension on the back, and it's not an E-Type reborn where it's a complete restoration. It's its own thing, but it is a glorious thing. And because it's effectively new, it doesn't have the provenance or the history of the original cars. But I'm going to say that's a good thing in some situations, because it's really the history and the provenance that makes original short wheelbases so valuable. It's the fact that some of them were raced by Sterling Moss, or they took part in the Mille Miglia, or whatever it might be. The actual cars themselves aren't really where the value lies. So this thing is priced at under £1 million. Now, that is a lot of money, I get it, but in comparison to the 10, 15 or 20 million pound versions, the original versions, it's a bloody bargain because, as I mentioned, you're still getting a 250 short wheelbase. You just can't say that Enzo Ferrari stood next to it or Graham Hill raced it. But who really cares? Because when you get behind the wheel, none of that matters. Because getting behind the wheel is amazing. Jaguar's E-Type Reborns, one of their full restorations of the classic British sports car. What's quite interesting is that E-Type is kind of the main rival for the 250 short wheelbase. But how different could two cars be? Oh my god! I expected this thing to be kind of similar to the E-Type, but no, it's a completely different proposition. Firstly, the noise, just listen. Obviously, one of Ferrari's iconic Colombo V12 engines. For the Revival, it's offered in 3 litre, 3.5 litre, or even 4 litre form. Back in the 1960s, it was just a 3 litre. I have no idea about horsepower and 0 to 60 time of these cars, and I just don't care. It's so much more than that. It's such a different soundtrack to a modern day Ferrari V12, but really any V12. It's so angry. The whole car is so angry. Close off some of these windows. I very nearly hit a pheasant there. Concentrate on what you're doing, Sam. You're driving a very expensive, very fast car. But yeah, it's not just the sound that's angry. The whole car just... Whilst the E-Type was elegant, I potted around London and it was so nice. Everything was kind of very sympathetic to touch and to feel. This thing is like, ah! Just wants to be absolutely... There you go, ruined. If I'm not forceful with the gears, they don't go in. You've got to kind of pick it up, the scruff of its neck, and throw it down the road. It's so exhilarating. It's so different to what I was expecting from this car, but it's kind of everything I wanted it to be without realizing. It's very Italiano, honestly. The missions, the adventures you could go on in something like this across the continent. And that's what you have to remember. This is a GT car, a Grand Tourer. People would take these on big journeys across Europe. And what they must have been like, I don't know. I do get the feeling that you might get out the other end a little bit exhausted, but so happy. I'm really struggling to put this experience into words. It's an experience I never thought I would get. And if I'm honest, I'm getting a little bit emotional. I don't know if it's because I literally haven't been outside for a year, or just the fact that it's like a weird dream come true, but a dream that I never actually thought would be realised. I don't want people to think that, you know, I don't have aspirations in life, but there are aspirations and then there's this madness. And the thought of driving a 250 short wheelbase like this, madness. Honestly, I've got to hold back a bit. I'm a bit embarrassed by the fact that I've genuinely got a lump in my throat. To quote the late great Murray Walker, I'm going to have to stop because I've got a lump in my throat. Oh, there's an underpass! See, I'm not even with it. There's an underpass and I just, I'm getting this wave of overwhelming emotion. The Ferrari, I don't even want to look at the Ferrari badge on the steering wheel because it just brings up this feeling inside of me. It's like, it's not even a boyhood dream, it's a lifehood dream. And I think what GTO Engineering are doing is amazing, because it opens up the market for these kind of cars. They're suddenly accessible to a whole load of other people to experience, and that is good. And you know what? Purists of purists are always going to complain, but get over yourselves, because this is something every single car guy needs to feel in their life. A car that genuinely makes you feel like you might cry. I feel like I might cry, and there's another pheasant with a death wind. Whoa, we went over a crest. But the brakes are still squidgy, you know, you got to really think. It was the first time Ferrari had used disc brakes on the 250, but they're old school, so you got to really stamp on them to make them do anything, and then the car pitches and moves. So you're driving, you know, you're really driving, and you got to enjoy that. And you got this lovely wooden steering wheel in your hands. The steering is kind of heavy, but weirdly it still reminds me of Ferrari. It still feels Ferrari-esque. It's just so different to the E-Type, and that's really my only point-to-point comparison. I've been very spoiled over the last few years. Whenever I've gone across to America for Monterey Car Week, I've done the Quail Rally, and I've spent a lot of time around an original Le Mans winning 250 Testarossa, but only ever from the passenger seat, and it's mind-boggling. There's no roof, there's like a minimal windscreen. It's really intense, but brilliant. But getting behind the wheel of this is another experience. But as I say, from a driving point of view, I can only compare it really with that E-Type. It's so helpful that the two were so recent. But yeah, I like, if the E-Type made me feel elegant and fancy, like I wanted to turn up at Lord Huntingdon's Manor, this makes me feel smooth and European, and like I want to go down to Corsica and have long hair. I want long sweeping hair that I can do this in. Oh my God, here comes the emotion again. Wow. The smell as well, you can smell things, you can feel things. And it's spacious, it's comfortable in here. But with the E-Type, I was very happy to potter around. I was happy to do this. In this car, that's all I want to do the whole time. You want to be up at 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs at a minimum. Absolutely bloody marvellous. It's been a weird video to film, because I've spent most of the time staring at this thing, just wanting to look at it, wanting to take photos. Now I've got in it, it's been hard to kind of put into words a lot of my feelings and my thoughts, because kind of experiencing it, you know, obviously for the first time, but in such a raw, and I had a lot of expectation but none, and it's blown. I mean, it's not even matched. What's it called? It's blown them all out of the water. This is Ferrari. When I say I love Ferrari, it's because of cars like this. This has still got the history and the heritage. It's not the provenance. This is everything I love and adore about Ferrari. It just didn't come out of the factory in 1960 like this. So what? I will have one of these in my life at some point. I will. There we go, I've declared it. It's going to be the highest mileage 250 short wheelbase in the world when that happens, because I'm just going to live in the thing. I'm going to live in it, and I'm going to drive it like a complete lunatic, and people won't care. I don't think, maybe they will, but I wish I had more time. I wish I had the ability to go up to Scotland or to Wales, spend a few days and document this car in an even fuller way. Because I don't think the video is going to really give you an idea of what it's like in here, what this experience is like. There's no way to capture it. But I do have another underpass, so at least you can make it sing. I'm going to pull over and have a little cry. minute. Oh, and there's a Mini that's caught up with me. See, that's the thing. I mean, this car's not that fast in comparison to modern cars, but it just doesn't matter. It does not matter. One last acceleration. Let's do it.